A delegate that looked like Livingstone stood slowly. "I am Counselor Vrask." The silence after Counselor Vrask's words felt like the moment before a storm breaks. Thousands of beings sat motionless, processing what the ancient stone delegate had just admitted. For many of them, Vrask's statement was the first crack in a foundation they had believed eternal. High Arbiter. Velcros's compound eyes swept across the chamber, seeing his control beginning to fragment. His voice, when he spoke, carried forced authority. "Counselor Vrask speaks from emotion, not logic. The system has worked for millions of years. One species with a single new technology does not invalidate eons of successful governance." "One technology," Hyunwoo repeated quietly. Then he smiled. "Would you like to see another?" Before Velcros could respond, the hologram shifted again. This time it showed Earth's orbital shipyards, where a new vessel was being constructed. The design was radically different from anything in the Council's databases. Sleek, compact, bristling with innovations. "This is humanity's next-generation explorer," General Dong-Hyun explained from Earth. "It incorporates wormhole technology, quantum computing cores, and adaptive AI systems. Construction began 4 days ago. It will be completed in 3 months. The Council's equivalent vessels, according to your own records, require an average of 15 years to build." "Impossible," a delegate from the middle tiers called out. "Quality construction cannot be rushed." "Quality construction requires efficiency," Jiwon countered. "We use automated manufacturing guided by adaptive AI. The ship builds itself with human oversight. Your methods rely on slow manual assembly because that's how it's always been done." Another delegate stood, a species that resembled a floating jellyfish with bioluminescent patterns. "Even if your technology is novel, you are one species. One world. The Council represents 847 civilizations spanning the galaxy. Numbers matter. Numbers matter," Hyunwoo agreed. "Which is why we're not interested in fighting the Council. We're interested in changing it." That statement sent another ripple through the chamber. Velcross's limbs twitched with agitation. "You speak of changing a system older than your species' existence? Why not?" Ambassador Tae-young stepped forward, his voice steadier now. "Systems can evolve. That's not destruction, it's growth. The Council maintains peace, which is admirable, but it also enforces stagnation, which is wasteful. Imagine what the galaxy could achieve if innovation was encouraged instead of suppressed." "Innovation brings instability," Velcros insisted. "New technologies, new ideas, new conflicts. The Council exists to prevent chaos." Dr. Young-Soo's image in the hologram spoke up, his gentle voice cutting through the tension. "With respect, High Arbiter, you don't prevent chaos. You prevent change. There's a difference. Chaos is random and destructive. Change is natural and necessary. Life itself requires change. Stars change. Planets change. Why should civilizations remain frozen?" He gestured at the wormhole still glowing in the laboratory behind him. "I am 83 years old. I have spent my entire life studying physics. I've failed more experiments than most species attempt in a century. But each failure taught me something. Each mistake revealed a new path. That's how progress works, through trying, failing, learning, and trying again." "Your species has existed for the blink of an eye," a delegate called out. "What can you teach civilizations millions of years old?" "How to be young again," Young-Soo replied simply. That statement hung in the air. Some delegates scoffed. Others looked thoughtful. And a few, Hyunwoo noticed with interest, leaned forward with something like hunger in their alien expressions. Counselor Vrask spoke again. "I must confess something to this assembly. After the humans' first appearance, I accessed my species' ancient archives. Records from our early days before we joined the Council. I found designs for technologies we abandoned. Projects we left unfinished. Dreams we stopped pursuing because the Council's standard technologies were sufficient." He turned his stone-like body toward Velcros. "High Arbiter, I have served loyally for 7 millennia, but I find myself asking, what might my people have become if we had continued to dream? What might any of us have become?" "Chaos," Velcros repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. "Conflict, disorder, or wonders," Vrask countered. "When did we decide that safety was worth more than discovery?" The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates shouted support for Velcros and traditional Council authority. Others questioned systems they had never thought to question before. A few species began arguing with each other, Old alliances straining under new doubts. Hyunwoo waited. He had planted the seed. Now he needed to let it grow. Finally, a small delegate near the bottom tier requested recognition. She was avian, with iridescent feathers and large, intelligent eyes. Her species had been part of the council for only 8,000 years, young by council standards. "I am Delegate Hyjin of the Scattered Flocks," she said. Her voice was musical, and the translator rendered it with a song-like quality. "My people accepted council terms when we were new to the stars. We were grateful for guidance. We still are, but I must ask a question that troubles me." She looked at the human delegation. "You demonstrated wormhole technology. You claim rapid construction methods, efficient power systems, adaptive intelligence. If you had accepted our terms, all of this would have been surrendered to council oversight. Your weapons research would halt. Your expansion would stop at 3 systems. And in 1,000 years of paying tribute, would you have continued to innovate? Or would you have become like us, content but stagnant?" "That's the point," Hyunwoo said softly. "Your system doesn't just govern species. It domesticates them. It takes away the hunger that drives progress. Hunger leads to aggression," Velcros argued, "to war, to the very chaos that destroyed civilizations before the council brought order. Sometimes," Hyunwoo admitted, "humanity nearly destroyed itself multiple times. Wars, environmental collapse, technological disasters. We came close to extinction more than once, but we learned. Each near disaster taught us. Each mistake made us wiser." He pulled up new data on the hologram. Earth's history, the wars and conflicts and recoveries. "We're not perfect. We've done terrible things. But we've also done something remarkable. We've grown. We've changed. We've learned that cooperation works better than conflict, not because someone forced us, but because we chose it. And if you choose wrongly," Velcros demanded. "If your innovations create weapons, if your rapid expansion threatens others, then hold us accountable," Hyunwoo said. "Create real partnerships based on mutual respect. Establish guidelines that protect everyone without crushing innovation. Build a council that encourages growth while preventing harm. But don't ask us to surrender our potential before we've even begun." Ambassador Tae-young added, "We're not asking to be above the law. We're asking for the law to make sense. Restriction to 3 systems prevents expansion, even if there are uninhabited systems nearby. Technology limitations prevent us from defending ourselves or solving our own problems. Tribute for 1,000 years assumes we owe something for the crime of existing. These aren't fair terms. They're chains." The debate raged for hours. Delegate after delegate spoke, some defending tradition, others questioning it. The hologram from Earth remained active, showing the wormhole technology functioning perfectly, proving that humanity's claims weren't empty boasts. Finally, Velcros called for order. "This discussion is unprecedented and inappropriate. The Council does not debate terms with individual species. The system is established. It will not change based on one species' objections." "Then call a vote," Councillor Vrask said. "You have the authority, High Arbiter. Call a formal vote on military action against Earth. If the Council truly supports the current system, the vote will pass easily." Velcros hesitated. Calling a vote was within his authority, but votes created permanent records. They forced delegates to publicly commit to positions, and based on the mood in the chamber, he wasn't certain the vote would go the way he wanted. "Very well," Velcros finally said. "This assembly will vote on whether to authorize immediate blockade and isolation of the human homeworld for refusal to accept standard integration terms. Delegates will have 1 standard hour to register their votes." The humans were escorted back to their quarters while the voting proceeded. The wait was agonizing. Tae-young paced. Ji-won reviewed their data obsessively, looking for anything they might have missed. Hyunwoo sat quietly, appearing calm but feeling his heart race. "What if they vote for blockade?" Tae-young asked. "We've provoked them. We've challenged their entire system. They might make an example of us." "Then we adapt," Hyunwoo said. "We use our wormhole technology to bypass the blockade. We establish hidden colonies. We continue growing until they're forced to negotiate for real. But I don't think it'll come to that." "Why not?" Ji-won asked. "Because Vrask wasn't the only one listening. I saw their faces. Some of them were angry, yes, but others were curious, hungry. Some of those delegates are tired of stagnation. They've been waiting for someone to say what they've been thinking for centuries." An hour later, they were summoned back to the Grand Assembly. The chamber felt different now. tense, uncertain, as if something fundamental had shifted. High Arbiter Velcro stood at his platform, his posture rigid. What? The Grand Assembly chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread that the humans would deliver their answer today, and apparently many species found this entertaining. A young species would bow to the council as they always did. It was tradition. Theater. A reminder to everyone of how the galaxy worked. Yunwu walked down to the central platform with his team following behind. He could feel the weight of thousands of eyes on him, some curious, most indifferent, a few openly contemptuous. Ambassador Tae-young looked nervous but determined. Dr. Ji-won carried a data tablet as if it contained the secrets of the universe. In a way, it did. High Arbiter Velcros loomed above them on his elevated platform. His insectoid features were unreadable, but his voice carried complete confidence. This was routine for him. He had seen hundreds of species stand where the humans stood now. All of them eventually submitted. Humans of Earth, Velcros announced, his voice booming through the chamber. You have had your 7 days of consideration. The terms remain unchanged. Territory restriction to 3 systems. Technology limitation. Resource tribute. Political submission to council authority. Do you accept? The chamber fell silent. Every being waited for the inevitable yes. No, Hyunwoo said clearly. We respectfully decline. The silence somehow became deeper. Several species made sounds of surprise. A few delegates leaned forward in their seats. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Velcros's compound eyes seemed to glitter with something that might have been anger or amusement. Perhaps you misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. These terms are standard. They have been accepted by every species in this chamber. I understand perfectly, Hyunwoo replied calmly. You're asking Earth to surrender its freedom in exchange for permission to exist. We decline. Now the chamber erupted. Voices rose in dozens of languages, translated automatically into a cacophony of outrage, shock, and fascination. Several delegates stood and began shouting demands for Earth's immediate blockade. Others called for harsher terms. A few simply stared, as if witnessing something unprecedented. Velcros raised one-bladed limb and silence returned. You are young and foolish. You do not comprehend the consequences of refusing the council. Then explain them to us, Hyunwoo said. Tell everyone here what happens to species that say no. For the first time, Velcro seemed uncertain. The question was direct and challenged the council's authority in front of the entire assembly. But he couldn't refuse to answer without looking weak. Species that refuse integration are isolated, Velcro stated. They are restricted to their home system. All trade is forbidden. All communication is severed. They are given time to reconsider. All species eventually see reason. Isolation, blockade. Economic warfare, Hyunwoo said, making sure every delegate heard. But not direct military action. Interesting. We do not make war on the ignorant, Velcros replied coldly. We simply leave them to their self-imposed exile until wisdom prevails. I see. Hyunwoo turned slightly, addressing the entire chamber now instead of just Velcros. So the council's power comes not from military might, but from collective agreement. You control the galaxy because everyone agrees to be controlled. That's actually quite clever. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. That was closer to the truth than they liked to admit. But it only works, Hyunwoo continued, if the terms you offer are fair, if they're worth accepting. And that's what we want to discuss today. Are these terms fair? The terms are standard, Velcros insisted. They have maintained galactic peace for millions of years. Standard, Hyunwoo repeated. Let me show you what that word really means. He nodded to Ji-won, who activated her tablet. A holographic display materialized above the central platform, visible to everyone in the chamber. It showed a timeline, humanity's technological development from the first stone tools to the present day. This is Earth's history, Hyunwoo said. From our first use of fire to our first step on our moon took roughly 200,000 years. From that first moon landing to faster-than-light travel took just 276 years. Total time from primitive tools to starflight, about 200,000 years. The hologram shifted, showing comparison data. According to council records, which are publicly accessible by the way, the average species takes between 50,000 and 100,000 years to achieve spaceflight. FTL technology typically requires an additional 50,000 years, Some species need millions of years. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates were clearly surprised. Others looked uncomfortable, as if they hadn't thought about these numbers in a very long time. Humanity achieved in 300 years what most species need 50,000 years to accomplish, Hyunwoo stated. We're not special. We're not superior. We're desperate. Our planet is harsh. Our history is violent. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times, but every challenge made us faster, sharper, more innovative. The hologram changed again, now showing technical comparisons. Your fusion reactors are enormous and reliable. Ours are 1/10 the size and produce the same power. Your FTL drives are time-tested and safe. Ours are newer and measurably faster. Your artificial intelligence systems follow strict logical parameters. Ours learn and adapt. A crystalline delegate near the front spoke up, its voice harmonizing in mathematical tones. You suggest that newer technology is superior. This is arrogance. Our systems are proven over eons. Proven, Hyunwoo agreed, and stagnant. When was the last time your species invented something new? Not improved an existing design, but created something genuinely novel? The crystalline being didn't answer. Around the chamber, other delegates also remained silent. The question made them uncomfortable. Ambassador Tae-young stepped forward, his nervousness replaced by conviction. The Council maintains peace. We respect that. But your system doesn't just maintain peace, it enforces stagnation. You've created a galaxy where nothing changes, nothing grows, nothing surprises anyone anymore. Stability is a virtue, Velcros declared. Change brings chaos. Sometimes, Hyunwoo acknowledged. But change also brings growth, innovation, progress. And that's what we offer the galaxy, not as subjects, but as partners. He gestured, and the hologram shifted one final time. This time it showed something new, real-time data streaming from Earth. General Dong-hyun appeared in the projection, standing in a laboratory where dozens of scientists worked at various stations. High Arbiter, delegates of the Council, the general said. I am General Dong-hyun of Earth's United Defense Command. I'm speaking to you live from our primary research facility. We understand you doubt humanity's value to galactic civilization. Allow us to demonstrate. Behind him, the scientists activated their equipment. Energy readings spiked on the displays. And then, in the center of the laboratory, space itself seemed to tear open. A circular portal formed, stable and glowing with soft blue light. This is a stable wormhole, General Dong-hyun explained. A point-to-point connection through space with no travel time required. We can open these portals across any distance instantly. We achieved this breakthrough 6 days ago. The Grand Assembly Chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates stood shouting questions and accusations. The crystalline being's mathematical harmonics reached a pitch that suggested profound shock. Several species began frantically accessing their own databases, confirming that this technology didn't exist in Council records. Dr. Young-soo appeared next to the general in the hologram. He was an older man with kind eyes and white hair, looking more like a gentle grandfather than a revolutionary scientist. The Council's scientific records conclude that stable wormholes require impossible amounts of energy. Young-soo said calmly, We discovered that conclusion was based on flawed assumptions. Space isn't uniform. It has natural weak points, places where the fabric of reality is already thin. We learn to find these points and gently slip through them, rather than forcing our way through. He gestured at the portal. The energy requirement is actually quite modest. Any civilization with fusion power could achieve this. But you have to approach the problem differently. You have to think like someone who isn't satisfied with how things have always been done. Through the wormhole, they could see another laboratory on Mars. A scientist on Mars waved to the camera on Earth. The distance was instantaneous. The connection was perfect. Velcros had risen from his platform, his composure finally breaking. This is impossible. Our greatest minds have studied wormhole theory for millions of years. The mathematics proves it cannot be done. Your mathematics, Ji-won said, were correct for your approach, but there's more than one way to solve a problem. That's what humanity brings to the galaxy. Not just new technology, but new ways of thinking. Hyunwoo looked directly at Velcros. You asked us to submit, to restrict ourselves, to pay tribute for 1,000 years. But why should we? What does the Council offer that's worth surrendering our freedom? Order, Velcros said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. stability, peace. We can have those things as partners, Hyunwoo countered. Equals working together. We're not asking to dominate the galaxy. We're asking to contribute to it. To share what we've learned. To learn from others in return. A new voice spoke from the upper tiers of the assembly. It was deep and old, carrying the weight of ages. The moment they returned to their quarters, Hyunwoo sealed the door and activated every security measure the indomitable spirit crew had quietly installed. Electronic jammers hummed to life, creating a bubble of privacy in a station full of watching eyes. "All right," he said, turning to his team. "We have 7 days. I don't plan to waste a single hour." "Jiwon, what did you find?" Dr. Jiwon pulled up her tablet, which now displayed dozens of scans and analyses. Her eyes were bright with the kind of excitement scientists get when they discover something important. "This station is ancient," she began. "We're talking millions of years old. The core structure dates back to an era when Earth's continents were still forming. But here's the interesting part. The technology hasn't evolved much. They maintain it, repair it, expand it, but they're not innovating." She pulled up a schematic of the station's power systems. "Look at this. Their fusion reactors are massive and stable, but they're incredibly inefficient by our standards. They generate huge amounts of power but waste most of it. Our newest reactors on Earth produce the same output with 1/10 the mass." Tae-young looked confused. "How is that possible?" "They've been doing this for millions of years." "That's exactly the problem," Ji-won explained. "When you achieve something that works and you have millions of years of peace, you stop pushing. You stop innovating. Why improve something that already functions? Their technology is old, reliable, and stagnant." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. He had suspected something like this. "What else?" "Their ships," Ji-won continued, pulling up images of the vessels docked around the station. "They're huge, impressive, ancient designs that have been replicated for eons. But I've analyzed their propulsion signatures. Their FTL drives are actually slower than ours. Not by much, but measurably slower." "How is our technology better when we just invented it?" Tae-young asked. "Because we had to," Hyunwoo answered before Ji-won could. "We went from first flight to the moon in 66 years. From the first computer to artificial intelligence in less than a century. We've been in a constant race against each other, against time, against extinction. These species achieved space travel, and then had millions of years of stability. They stopped racing." "Exactly," Ji-won confirmed. "And there's more. I hacked into some of their public databases. And yes, before you ask, their security is terrible by our standards. I found historical records. Do you know how long it takes most species to develop FTL technology after achieving spaceflight?" She paused for effect. "An average of 50,000 years. Some take 100,000. One species took nearly 1,000,000 years. We did it in 300 years." The room fell silent as that sank in. Humanity had achieved in centuries what other species needed millennia to accomplish. "That's impossible," Tae-young whispered. "We're not that special." "We're not special," Hyunwoo agreed. "We're desperate. Every century of human history has been a fight. Wars, plagues, disasters, near extinctions. We've never had the luxury of taking our time. We innovate because we have to." A knock at the door interrupted them. Hyunwoo opened it carefully to find engineer Jae-min, one of their technical specialists. He slipped inside quickly, carrying a small device. "Captain, you need to see this," Jae-min said, activating a holographic display. "I've been analyzing their communication networks. They're not very well protected. I managed to access some restricted files." "What kind of files?" Hyunwoo asked. "Military records. Historical data on council enforcement actions." Jaemin's face was grim. They weren't lying about the consequences of refusal. 23 species have rejected council terms in the last 1,000,000 years. All of them were blockaded. Several had their homeworlds quarantined, basically locked away from the rest of the galaxy by force. "Force," Tae-young repeated. "So they do have military power?" "Yes and no," Jae-min replied. "Their fleets are enormous. Thousands of ships. But Captain, they haven't fought a real war in over 10,000 years. The last major conflict in council records was a minor border dispute that lasted 6 months and resulted in minimal casualties." He pulled up more data. "I analyzed their weapons technology. It's powerful, but it's also predictable. Energy weapons that follow standard physics. Missiles that use conventional propulsion. Shields that operate on frequency-based protection. Nothing revolutionary. Nothing that would surprise a military strategist from Earth." Hyunwoo felt a plan beginning to form in his mind. So they maintain control through intimidation and bureaucracy, not through superior force. Mostly, Jamin confirmed. The threat is real. They have the numbers to enforce a blockade. But their technology isn't as advanced as they want everyone to believe. They just have more of it. For the next several days, the team worked in secret. Jiwan continued analyzing every aspect of the station's technology. Jamin dug deeper into council databases, building a comprehensive picture of galactic politics. Tae-young reached out through encrypted channels to Earth, coordinating with the United Government, and Hyunwoo planned. On the third day, Agent Soo-jin revealed herself. She had been posing as a junior diplomat, but she was actually an intelligence operative sent by Earth's security services. She brought additional technical expertise and a willingness to take risks. I've been exploring restricted areas of the station, Soo-jin reported. The council species are arrogant. They don't think anyone would dare spy on them. I've accessed data vaults, observed security protocols, even infiltrated a military planning session. What did you learn? Hyunwoo asked. They're worried, Soo-jin said. Not about us specifically, but about the pattern we represent. There have been 3 species in the last 1,000 years that developed FTL unusually fast. All of them were immediately brought under strict terms. The council doesn't like rapid development. It threatens their control. She pulled up a document. I found this in a restricted archive. It's a council directive from 10,000 years ago. It states that any species showing accelerated technological advancement should be carefully managed to prevent destabilization of galactic order. They're afraid of change, Jiwan said quietly. That's what this is really about. Not afraid, Hyunwoo corrected. They're comfortable. They've built a system that keeps them on top, and they don't want anything to disrupt it. New ideas, rapid innovation, unpredictable thinking, those are threats to stability. On the 5th day, they received a transmission from Earth. General Dong-hyun appeared on their secure channel, his face serious. Captain, we've been working on something since you left, the general said. Dr. Youngsu's team had a breakthrough. We're ready to send you the data, but you need to understand this changes everything. What kind of breakthrough? Hyunwoo asked. Stable wormhole generation. We can open portals through space instantly. No travel time. No FTL needed. Just point-to-point connection across any distance. The team stared at the screen in shock. That was theoretically impossible. Every physics paper humanity had written on the subject concluded it couldn't be done. The energy requirements were too high. The mathematics didn't work. How? Jiwan breathed. By not thinking like them, General Dong-hyun replied. Youngsu's team approached it differently. They didn't try to force space to bend. They found the natural weak points where space is already thin and learned to slip through them. It's elegant, efficient, and completely unexpected. Have you tested it? Tae-young asked. Successfully opened a wormhole from Earth to Mars and back. Stable for 3 hours. We can send through matter, energy, communications. And Captain, we did a search of the Council's scientific databases. This technology doesn't exist anywhere in their records. As far as we can tell, nobody in the known galaxy has achieved this. Hyunwoo felt his pulse quicken. This was the card he needed. Not a weapon, not a threat, but proof that humanity brought something new to the galaxy. Send us everything, he ordered. We'll need to demonstrate this at the assembly. Can you set up a live feed? Already working on it, the general confirmed. We'll be ready when you are. The next 2 days were spent in careful preparation. They rehearsed their presentation. They gathered every piece of data they would need. They coordinated timing with Earth to ensure the demonstration would work perfectly. On the evening before their scheduled response to the Council, Hyunwoo gathered his team one final time. Tomorrow, we're going to do something no species has done before, he told them. We're going to say no to the Council, and we're going to prove that humanity deserves to be treated as equals, not servants. They might attack us, Tae-young warned. They might, Hyunwoo agreed. But I don't think they will, because tomorrow we're going to show them something they've forgotten how to do. We're going to innovate. And deep down, I think some of them will remember what that feels like. Jiwon smiled. You're gambling the fate of Earth on aliens having a sense of wonder? No, Hyunwoo said. I'm gambling on the fact that stagnation is boring. And after millions of years of the same old patterns, someone out there must be hungry for change. He looked at each of them. Get some rest. Tomorrow we make history. Station Omnira appeared on their screens like a jewel floating in the darkness. No, not a jewel. More like a city, a world, an impossible structure that made every engineer on the Indomitable Spirit gasp in disbelief. The station was enormous. It stretched across space larger than Jupiter, a massive ring of interconnected habitats and docking ports and towers that seemed to defy physics. Light sparkled across its surface like a million cities. Ships of every imaginable design moved around it in carefully controlled patterns. "My God," whispered Tae-young, staring at the view screen. "How is that even possible?" Dr. Ji-won was already taking measurements, her tablet filling with data. The energy requirements alone. They must have power sources we can't even imagine. This thing has been here for a long time, too. Some of those structures look ancient. Hyunwoo studied the station carefully. Impressive, yes. Terrifying, even. But he forced himself to look past the spectacle and see the details. Some sections gleamed with fresh construction. Others looked worn and patched. The station was old, maintained but not updated. That was interesting. A new transmission came through, and this time the voice was mechanical and impatient. "Human vessel Indomitable Spirit, proceed to docking bay 7743B. Your quarters have been prepared. You will wait to be summoned." "Wait?" Tae-young frowned. "For how long?" But the transmission had already ended. They docked where they were told, and the differences became immediately clear. Bay 7743B was in an older section of the station, far from the central hub. The dock workers, a species that looked like walking crystals, barely acknowledged them. When they asked for directions, they were pointed toward a dim corridor without explanation. Their quarters were small and plain. 3 simple rooms with basic furniture, no windows looking out at space. No decorations. The kind of accommodations you might give to servants or prisoners, not diplomatic guests. "This is deliberate," Ji-won said, running her hand along the bare metal wall. "They're trying to make us feel small." Ambassador Tae-young looked like he wanted to complain, but Hyunwoo shook his head. "Let them play their games. We're here to listen and learn, save the protests for when they matter." They waited for 2 days. Nobody came to greet them. Nobody offered to show them around. Food arrived at their door 3 times a day. Bland nutrient paste that technically kept them alive but offered no pleasure. When they tried to explore the station, they found their access restricted. Most corridors were blocked to them. On the 3rd day, they received a visitor. A human woman, surprisingly. Though her uniform bore symbols of the Galactic Council, she introduced herself as Overseer Mirai, and her accent suggested she had been born on Earth decades ago. "You're from Earth?" Tae-young asked, surprised and hopeful. Mirai's expression remained neutral. "I was, long ago. I've served the Council for 20 years now. I came to offer you advice before your audience tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Hyunwoo leaned forward. "Finally. Listen carefully," Mirai said, her voice dropping low. "The Council is not interested in negotiation. They have rules that have existed for millions of years. New species always follow the same path. You present yourselves, you accept the terms, you spend centuries proving your worth. Fighting this system is futile. What are the terms?" Ji-won asked. Mirai pulled out a data tablet. "Territory restriction. You'll be limited to 3 star systems. Technology limitation. You'll surrender all weapons research and advanced propulsion data. Resource tribute. 15% of your production for the next 1,000 years. And political submission. You'll acknowledge Council authority in all interstellar matters." The room fell silent. Tae-young looked like he might be sick. Ji-won's jaw clenched. Hyunwoo simply stared at the woman who was once human and now spoke for their potential oppressors. "And if we refuse?" Hyunwoo asked calmly. Mirai's face showed genuine sadness. "Then your species will be isolated, blockaded. Every other civilization in the galaxy will be forbidden from trading with you. You'll be trapped in your corner of space until you comply. Some species have held out for centuries. They always give in eventually." "You accepted this," Ji-won said, "and it wasn't quite a question." "I learned the truth," Mirai replied. "The Council is older than human civilization. They've guided the galaxy for eons. Who are we to challenge them? We're infants in cosmic terms. Better to accept our place and grow slowly under their guidance." After she left, the 3 of them sat in heavy silence. 1,000 years of tribute, Tae-young finally said. 3 systems, no weapons. We'd be prisoners in our own space. And they think this is reasonable, Jiwon added bitterly, because that's how they've always done it. Hyunwoo stood and began pacing. His mind was already working through possibilities. Tomorrow we meet them. Tonight we prepare. Jiwon, I need you to analyze everything you can about this station. Power systems, construction methods, technology level, everything. What are you thinking? She asked. I'm thinking that something very old isn't necessarily very advanced, and I'm thinking that people who never face challenges don't stay sharp. He looked at both of them. We're not accepting those terms, but we need to understand what we're dealing with before we refuse. The next day they were finally summoned to the Grand Assembly Chamber. Guards escorted them through corridors that gradually became more magnificent. Soaring ceilings, walls covered in art from 1,000 worlds, floors that seemed to be made of contained starlight. The chamber itself took their breath away. It was a massive sphere, with the delegates' positions arranged in spiraling tiers that reached up in every direction. Thousands of beings filled the space, creatures of every imaginable type. Some looked like animals from Earth. Others were so alien that the human eye struggled to process them. At the center, floating on an elevated platform, sat High Arbiter Velcros. He was insectoid, towering 3 meters tall, with compound eyes that glittered like black diamonds. His voice when he spoke boomed through the chamber with absolute authority. The humans will approach. Hyunwoo led the way down to the speaking platform at the chamber's center. Every eye in that vast space focused on them. He could feel the weight of their attention, curiosity, contempt, indifference. To most of these species, humanity was nothing, a newcomer, a child species that would soon learn its place. Ambassador Tae-young began to speak, delivering the prepared greeting from Earth. His voice was steady, his words diplomatic. He spoke of humanity's hope for peaceful cooperation and mutual understanding. Velcros didn't even let him finish. Sufficient, the High Arbiter declared, cutting him off mid-sentence. The pleasantries are noted and irrelevant. We will now deliver the terms of your integration into galactic society. What followed was exactly what Mireille had warned them about. Velcros laid out the conditions in a voice that allowed no discussion. 3 systems. No weapons. 15% tribute. 1,000 years. Political submission to council authority. These terms are not negotiable, Velcros concluded. They are the same terms accepted by every species in this chamber. Your youth and inexperience are understood. You will be given time to consult with your government. 7 of your days. Return then with your acceptance. Around the chamber, the assembled species showed no reaction. This was routine to them. Business as usual. Another young species learning its place in the cosmic order. Hyunwoo stepped forward and for the first time he spoke. We need to understand something, he said clearly. You call these terms standard. You say every species accepts them. But what you're describing isn't cooperation, it's submission. A ripple of surprise went through the chamber. Several species made sounds that might have been laughter or shock. Velcros's eyes fixed on Hyunwoo. You are young. You do not understand the order that has kept the galaxy peaceful for millions of years. Maybe, Hyunwoo agreed, but we'll need those 7 days to consider. We'll give you our answer then. He bowed slightly, respectful but not servile, and led his team from the chamber. Behind them, the assembled species began to murmur. Most seemed amused. A few appeared curious, but none of them seemed worried. They had no idea what was coming. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, though nobody on Earth would remember that detail later. What they would remember was the feeling, that sudden collective realization that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Captain Hyunwoo stood in the communication center of the United Earth Space Command. Watching the alien transmission play for the 5th time, the holographic display showed a towering creature that looked like a mantis crossed with a cathedral. Its voice came through the translators as cold and formal. Greetings to the species of Sol 3, designated as humans. The Galactic Council acknowledges your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel. You are hereby summoned to present yourselves before the Grand Assembly at Station Omnira. This is not a request. All spacefaring species must answer to the Council. You have 30 of your days to arrive. Failure to comply will result in consequences. The transmission ended there. No pleasantries. No offer of friendship. Just a command. Hyunwoo rubbed his tired eyes. He had been a ship captain for 15 years, exploring the outer reaches of human space. He had seen the colony on Proxima Centauri B grow from a handful of prefab shelters to a thriving town of 50,000. He had watched humanity take its first real steps into the cosmos, and now this. They talk to us like we're children, said Dr. Jiwon, standing beside him. She was younger than Hyunwoo by a decade, but her mind was sharper than anyone he knew. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent years preparing for first contact. This was not what she had imagined. Worse than children, Hyunwoo replied. They talk to us like servants. Around them, the communications center buzzed with activity. Technicians analyzed every aspect of the transmission. Military advisors argued about potential threats. Politicians prepared statements for a nervous public. The whole world had seen the message. There was no hiding it. Ambassador Tae-young entered the room looking pale. He was Earth's newly appointed ambassador for alien relations, a position created just 6 months ago when humanity detected the first signs of other civilizations. Now he actually had to do the job. The UN Security Council is meeting in an hour, Tae-young said. They want recommendations. Do we go? Do we refuse? Do we prepare for war? We don't even know where this station Omnira is, Jiwon pointed out. The transmission included coordinates, but it's halfway across the galaxy. Even with our best FTL drives, it would take us 3 weeks to get there. They knew that, Hyunwoo said quietly. They gave us 30 days. They calculated exactly how long we would need. That made Jiwon pause. So they've been watching us. They know our capabilities, which means they know we're not a threat, Tae-young added, his voice heavy. They're not worried about us at all. The hours that followed were chaotic. The UN Security Council meeting turned into a shouting match. Some nations wanted to send a military fleet. Others wanted to ignore the message entirely. A few suggested sending a small, peaceful delegation. Nobody could agree. Hyunwoo watched the debates on the monitor feeds. He saw fear in their eyes. Humanity had barely left its cradle, and already something vast and ancient was telling them how things would be. It reminded him of history lessons from school, powerful empires demanding tribute from smaller nations. That never ended well, but refusing felt equally dangerous. What if this Galactic Council had weapons that could destroy Earth from across the galaxy? What if ignoring them brought an invasion? Humanity had nuclear weapons and railguns and plasma cannons, but those were designed to fight other humans. Could they fight aliens who had been traveling the stars for thousands of years? I'll go, Hyunwoo announced during the video conference with world leaders. Give me a small ship and a small crew. We'll meet this council and find out what they really want. The Prime Minister of the Korean Peninsula looked at him through the screen. Captain, this could be a trap. We might be sending you to your death. Maybe, Hyunwoo admitted. But someone has to go. And I'd rather it be people who won't bow easily. That got some uncomfortable laughter from the leaders, but they understood. Hyunwoo had a reputation. He was respectful but never submissive, polite but stubborn. If anyone could represent humanity without surrendering their dignity, it was him. The next week passed in a blur of preparations. They chose the Indomitable Spirit, humanity's newest exploration vessel, fresh from the shipyards above Luna. It was fast, well-armed, and equipped with the latest version of Earth's quantum jump drive. The crew was small, just 30 people, mostly scientists and diplomats with a handful of security personnel. Dr. Jiwon signed on immediately. If we're meeting aliens, I want to be there, she said. Besides, someone needs to keep you from starting an interstellar war. Hyunwoo smiled at that. Jiwon had a way of making tension feel lighter. They had worked together before, on the initial surveys of Proxima Centauri. He trusted her completely. Ambassador Tae-young was less eager but equally determined. This is literally my job, he said, though his hands shook slightly as he packed his things. I just wish I'd had more training. We're all learning as we go, Hyunwoo assured him. Just remember, we're equals. We represent Earth. We don't apologize for existing. On the morning of departure, half the world watched the launch. The Indomitable Spirit lifted from Earth orbit in silence, accelerating toward the quantum jump point. Before they jumped, Hyunwoo addressed the crew. We don't know what we're flying into, he told them honestly. This council might be friendly. They might be hostile. They might be something we can't even understand yet. But whatever happens, we face it as representatives of humanity. We face it with courage and intelligence. We show them who we are. The crew nodded, faces serious but determined. One more thing, Hyunwoo added. If this council thinks we're primitives who should be grateful for their attention, we're going to prove them wrong. Not with weapons, not with threats, but by showing them what humans do best. We adapt, we learn, and we never stop pushing forward. Ji-won caught his eye and smiled slightly. She understood. This wasn't just a diplomatic mission. It was humanity's first real test in the wider galaxy. The quantum jump drive activated, tearing a hole in space-time. The indomitable spirit slipped through, beginning the long journey to Station Omnira and whatever waited there. Behind them, Earth continued its daily business, but nothing would ever be quite the same. Humanity had been summoned, and Captain Hyunwoo was determined that when they answered that summons, they would do so on their own terms. The stars blurred past the viewports. 3 weeks to reach the council. 3 weeks to prepare for the moment that would define Earth's place in the galaxy. Hyunwoo sat in the captain's chair and watched the cosmos stream by, wondering what ancient eyes were already watching them approach.